Welcome. I'm Malia, Monaco, an Associate Certified Coach and the Chair of Technology with ICF Charter Chapter. In this video, you'll learn how to create professional-looking videos at home. This will include lighting, sound, teleprompters and software, backgrounds, and additional tips to make you look good on video. Right now, I'm in my studio in Tempe with 3 LED lights, a boom mic, a teleprompter, and a 4K HD video recorder. I do lots of videos for myself and for my clients, so this setup meets my objectives, but it may not meet yours. It might be overkill. So that's what we're going to cover today. So now welcome to my Zoom office studio, where I'm using the Logitech 1080p HD webcam that I've had for years, and just Apple earbuds. This is pretty ubiquitous to be able to see just these earbuds nowadays, to be able to have a higher quality audio. So I'm going to give you some audio options. Having high quality audio is very important for people to comprehend, hear you, not strain to listen, because they're going to be losing a lot of messaging if you're having your audience strain to understand what you're saying, or if there's echoing or anything like that. So I wanted you to see the difference between what a studio setup looks like and then what an office setup looks like. And then I'm going to give you tips to really make your office setup look really good. So let's get started. Here's another audio option. This is a lapel mic that I have plugged into the computer. And this gives you the opportunity to not have those earphones hanging down. And it gives you still a higher quality audio because it's capturing your audio close to your mouth, which is important. So I want to give you a lot of different options when it comes to audio. Now you're hearing the audio from the actual Logitech webcam, and the sound is having to travel a much greater distance to be able to be picked up from the microphone. And so this is what it sounds like on the Logitech webcam. And the last test I'm going to show you is actually from my computer audio, and you can tell the difference. So here's the last audio demonstration, and this is using just the laptop audio that I have. It's pretty far away because I have a docking station and a monitor set up, so there is quite some distance between the two, so you can tell there's a difference in audio quality as well. So now I'm going to give you a couple different lighting demonstrations. So right now I have no lights on. I have my office shed has lots of windows, lots of great natural lighting, which is wonderful when there's no clouds and everything's pretty consistent and the lighting will pretty much stay the same, especially if it's short video and the sun's not going to change very much. Then this would work pretty well. So now I'm going to give you some other options for lighting that will give you some more consistency as well as making you really look good on camera. Okay, so now I have my flat LED light that's behind my Logitech camera, and it's facing me. So you always want to make sure that your lighting is facing you and is behind your camera. And you want some consistency. You don't want to create shadows, and you don't want to create backlighting unless you're compensating. So in my studio, I do have a backlight that shines against the wall, but that's just for kind of visual effect. It's not going to add anything other than that. So being able to create less shadows and more consistency and really emphasize your face is important. So here's what it looks like from the point of view if I'm sitting at my desk and looking out. So that's my light. And if you would have imagined that the Logitech would be sitting here. And see, I have 2 big windows, which provide great natural light. And I also have a side window. So my office is a bit of a mess right now. I apologize. Which is great. It does give some good natural lighting, but it might not be consistent. So that's where I would put the light, and the camera would sit here. Okay, so now let's talk about backgrounds when it comes to sitting at your office desk or being in another space. I know I work all over the place in the house right now because of the kids and everything else. So being able to create a space, if you're doing video, you obviously want quiet, and you want to be able to have an intentional background. So when I'm on Zoom and in video on conferencing, this is my intentional background. It's not too distracting. It's got my branding. It's very intentional. You see a bookshelf, on the side here. but it's not distracting. You're not trying to read the subjects, or it's not distracting and disorganization. Simple background, easy, on the eyes. So here's some other options. Okay, so bookcases are an option for background, but as you can see, mine is not a very good example. If I was to turn and have my desk this way, it would be very distracting for the viewer to see the mirage of books and this and that disorganized. That's just kind of the reality of life, but it's not a good intentional background to have. So if you are going to use a bookcase, make it intentional. Straighten up your books. Add some other elements so it's not just a complete wall of books. Maybe there's a little variety in there with some beautiful objects. And just really make it an intentional background, not just throwing, a bookcase in the back. So here's another option for a background. So the background I had before is just a flat painted wall. I intentionally chose that flat gray color because it works really well with any logos I need to put up, with any complexions, and any different outfits that come on. It's a very neutral background, and so that's what I've always used. Some other options are something like this. This can be ordered on Amazon. There's many different options, and so this gives an opportunity to give you a different background. This is also an opportunity if you need to block out some stuff in your background, is that you can get something like this, or even just a sheet of a solid color. Pull it tight, and then you have a great simple background. So here's another option. Is something like it's just a solid color, but it's white. White can be challenging though. White can mess with the color schemes on your camera, so you got to be cautious whether you're wearing white or your background is white. This one's been rolled up for a while too, so it's a little wrinkled, which is not a good idea. You keep them very flat. And I'll give you one more option. So this is another option. You can get a green screen that gives you the opportunity to change your background to whatever you want. There's some cautions around that though, because if you have any different shadows, or if you have any of these type of irregularities, a lot of times it's going to look kind of funky when your screen is trying to find the consistent background. So that's something to think about. So keeping it simple and not having to complicate with a green screen would be a recommendation that I have. So this is another thing to consider: what you're wearing and your background. So there's a lot going on here, both on my shirt and in my background. And so for the viewer's brain, it's a lot to process and it can become distracting. So being able to keep at least one of them little more muted and simplified is a good idea. So here's an example of a little more pattern on the shirt, but the simple background. It usually works much better that way. Right now I'm videotaping with the software program that came with my Logitech. It's going to give you a higher quality video when if you're going to edit it or if you're publishing it. It's going to give you that higher quality because it's recording it at 1080p or minimum 720. And that's going to give you a higher quality image than doing it on Zoom. So now I'm going to give you a demonstration of what it looks like on Zoom versus, oh, hold on. So, okay, we talked about the camera. Now it's going to make a difference what camera you have, whether or not you're recording even on Zoom. So if you're recording from just your laptop computer, and if Apple's are usually pretty good, but if it's just, a standard PC, usually they're not very high quality. So that's going to impact. So I'll give you a demonstration. I'm trying to think. I'm going to give you a demonstration of both so you can just see it. Okay, so I'm recording on Zoom right now with my Logitech 1080p webcam and my lapel mic. So this gives you an idea of what it looks like when I'm recording on Zoom versus what it looked like when I was actually just recording on my computer with the Logitech software. Now I'm going to switch. Okay, so now I'm recording on just my laptop camera, and you can tell the difference even just when I'm looking at it. You can tell the difference that it's much less clear, more fuzzy, and it's going to really impact how it's going to be processed. Sometimes when I'm processing videos, if it's recorded at such a low density, then I can't even process it through my system. It'll create like oddities in the camera. So being able to use a software versus a Zoom is important. If you're recording with each other, it's a little more difficult. This, if you can use at least your webcam and not your computer, but through Zoom, that's usually a better way to go. Try to stay away from just the webcam that's built into your computer because it doesn't really look so good. Now let's talk about some other tips. Tip for sitting versus standing. Sitting is great. However, it doesn't deliver the energy. It's just like doing a presentation on stage. It's really important to be able to convey a lot of energy and be able to bring that to your audience. Whether you're on stage or on camera, it's about the same level of energy that you're going to need. So right now I'm sitting and I actually feel kind of just like I'm kind of forcing energy out. I have a stand-up desk, so now I'm going to stand up. Okay, so now I'm standing. I have a desk that goes up and down, which is wonderful. So now as I'm standing, I feel very grounded on the floor. I feel like I can project and deliver a lot easier, and I'm able to really make that connection with my audience. Another thing too, if you've noticed, I'm looking into the camera. I'm keeping eye contact. So it might feel kind of uncomfortable just staring into a camera and talking. I know some people put a little sticky note right underneath it, and that kind of keeps their eye up that top part. Sometimes they put pictures of loved ones and people, you know, inspirational pictures or something that brings you joy, so that you keep that connection with the camera and with your audience. It just takes practice too. So once you get your groove and do it a few times, it becomes more natural. Okay, so how do you read your notes if you're staring at the camera? There's a few options. I'm going to put some in the resources. There are teleprompters that you can actually put on your computer that work with your webcam. And then there's a software with that. So I'll put that in resources so that you have that. That's a great way to be able to do it. So it feels like, you know, the natural connection. You're looking at the camera while you're getting your notes to deliver. If you're doing a PowerPoint presentation, it can get a little hairier because you have to use the software with the teleprompter. So an option is, like with my setup, I have my laptop and I have a monitor so that you can split presentation view and speaker view. And when you're presenting or recording, then you're only presenting to the presentation view and you see your notes on the other screen. So it's a little more sophisticated, but there are ways. So the other thing is hand gestures and positioning. We talked about standing versus sitting. And when you're standing, really get grounded, kind of keep your feet hips width apart so you can really ground into the floor and feel stable. Careful not to just, when you're talking, start rocking. It's a natural thing. It happens. Just pay attention to it. It's okay to move. You don't want to be a complete statue. And when you're standing and you're talking, having your arms kind of bent at the 90-degree angle so they're just sitting at your waist gives your structure a little, your shoulders a little more structure versus your arms dangling and hanging. It also brings a little more energy on delivery, and it gives you the opportunity to utilize your hands in just a natural fashion, giving a little, excitement of talking, not overdoing it. You know, we're not an Italian wedding or anything, but just being able to have more of a conversational approach. It does help make that connection with the people that are watching it. Being able to use different things like counting, first thing I'm going to talk about, the second thing I'm going to talk about, delivering to you, my personal messaging, doing different things like that just helps that communication piece, and it doesn't, get boring when it's in video. So I'll give you more resources in the resource document below. So now let's talk about your appearance. So for women, hair and makeup really is a must. It's just like being on stage. It's gonna wash you out and you're gonna lose some of its effect. So being able to put the makeup on, get your hair to where it needs to be. Mine has like COVID hair. I haven't had a haircut in months, so it's challenged, but you do the best you can. Being able to accent your features, not overdo it, and just feel natural. Do some tests on camera, see what works, especially if you're using lighting. The lighting will wash you out, so you want to be able to add your color back into your skin and your features. And for men, obviously there's no makeup involved, but just make sure you look neat and check for any oddities going on, hair's weird or anything like that. And also for clothes. So I'm going to put some stuff in resources. What works really well is just simple, jewel tones. Layers are nice. Structure is nice. So a structured jacket. This has a small shoulder pad in it. If it was just a sweater, it'll kind of droop. The shoulders will droop a little bit. So getting a little bit of structure to it, it adds a nice little element. Jewelry, necklaces, very simple, not overdone. That adds a nice little color splash and little element. Nothing distracting, so you can hear if it was jingling, it might be distracting to the viewer. I did a little demonstration in my studio with patterns, so be careful with patterned clothing because sometimes the camera gets funky with patterns. It tries to pick up certain things, the focus gets weird, the color gets weird, so paying attention to that is important. And smile. It really makes a big difference for you to be able to practice smiling on camera, especially when you're opening and closing. This makes it really easy, especially if you're getting editing done. So smiling is going to really bring the energy. It's going to make that connection, get those little crow's feet so it's a natural connection with your audience because it's a natural smile, not a fake smile. Be authentic and be you. And especially through COVID and now and the changes that are probably going to persist is that we want transparency, we want authenticity, and we want the human connection. So whether you're speaking in person or you're speaking on camera and making a video, is to be able to really make that connection, that human experience. And you don't have to be perfect. You know, it's kind of fun to watch somebody just have a mishap or, you know, be real and not have to have total perfection. Really, done is better than perfect. Don't let perfection stand in your way. Practice. Just practice. Have fun. Just do some quick videos. Just get the feel for it. Do some test shots. See what works, what doesn't work, what you're most comfortable doing, and make it you. And don't try to force yourself into something that you're not. So that's really the crash course on creating great video at home. Hopefully it wasn't too overwhelming and drinking from a fire hose and you were able to take some of the information and be able to utilize it. I'm going to put all the links and the resources so that you have that. It's easy to order on Amazon, and just slowly build up. And the first time I did video, I literally had like every light I could find around the house, like placed in my room and, you know, just made it work. So it's just getting a little piece at a time and testing it out to see what works best. Quality video, Logitech cameras are maybe $100 now or less, and quality audio, so lapel mics can be anywhere from $20 and up. So those are both really important. And if you can do some lighting, you can use lighting that you have at home, or if you have consistent lighting and you're doing a short video using Windows, just play around and let me know if I can help you create amazing videos.